Hello, dear folks. Welcome to the show, Jack Chow on East West Show. Once again with the G&E TV. However, this time you see a different setting. Because in Southern California, in commemoration of the 70th anniversary of winning World War II, we're doing a great deal. Everybody is talking about World War II. They want to learn from history. They want to dig out of history for our posterity. So today, together with the organization called Southern California Commemoration Organization of World War II 70th Anniversary, are my wonderful guests. I would say, first of all, I should like to introduce somebody who deserve a salute to anybody of you. I would seriously introduce my young friend, Sgt Sanchez, William Sanchez, a war hero of World War II, to the show, please. Sir, you are welcome to the show.
Thank you very kindly.
And to his right-hand side is his helper, Lieutenant Chang of U.S. Air Force Reserve. Lieutenant, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And to his right, Mr. Victor Chang, a guy behind the whole thing, who has done the part of putting the pieces together, Victor Chang.
Thank you.
He's the co-chair of the organization, commemoration organization of the 70th anniversary of World War II. Altogether, ladies and gentlemen, please join us for the part that we never get a chance to get to, which is the story, war story, true story told by Sgt. William Sanchez. Sergeant, how are you doing this morning?
Thank you very kindly. I'm doing quite well.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Can you say for the record how old, how young you are, please?
Well, I just turned 97 and I'm going on 98.
All right, very good. That's good. That's a still young age compared to what I told you about 120, right?
That's right.
Minimum.
That's
minimum.
a long way to go yet.
Sure. Make a long story short, when did you join the U.S. Army, please?
Okay. I had a scholarship to go to UCLA. And they passed the draft bill. When they passed the draft bill, I not want to interrupt my education because at that time there were no deferments. So I went to the federal building to speak to the recruiting sergeant and find out what my options were.
I see.
I told him about my dilemma, and the recruiting sergeant put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "Son, do I have a deal for you?" When he said that, I should have walked out. But I said, "What's the deal?"
What's the deal? Yeah.
Yes. He said, "If you promise to serve your country outside of the continental United States on a post outside, I can cut your service time to 2 years and maybe even a year and a half." And I said, "Oh boy, I can handle that."
Okay.
So I said, "What are the outposts that are available?" He said, "Well, there's Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico.
And I said, "No, that doesn't sound too enticing." He said, "Well, we have Hawaii." I said, "That is a Navy base. The Army is secondary." Then he said, "We have the Philippines." And I said, he told me all about that. I says, "Where do I sign?" The next thing I knew, I was signing the papers, and I was told to report the first week of August to the federal building, where they would take me and other recruits to Fort MacArthur for swearing in. And the first week in August, instead of heading for UCLA, I was on an Army truck headed for Fort MacArthur to be sworn in.
That's a good term. That's a good term.
I was stationed in the Philippines on the island fortress of Corregidor. And MacArthur was the commander-in-chief of all of USAFE, which is the United States Armed Forces in the Far East.
All right, USAFE, yeah.
He was a supreme commander. And I happened to work on his staff in the intelligence division.
I see.
So I got to be real close to him. And when he would say that we were going to inspect one of the fortresses there in Corregidor, I would go with him, and he would say, at 1300, we're going to inspect Battery Way,
I see.
which was a mortar unit on Corregidor. At 1400, out we would go.
All right.
Whether they were bombing, shelling, strafing, or anything, out we would go. At the designated time, he would say. And one time, we were out in a very intense attack, and I told the driver, I would sit with the driver in front, and MacArthur would sit in the back. I told the driver, I said, we should wait till all this bombing and shelling and everything is over. And MacArthur tapped me on the shoulder, and he said, son, if you let the enemy dictate the war is lost. I never said anything to him again. But the kicker was, he said to me, besides, you're with me. There isn't a bullet, a shell, a bomb, or anything that's going to hurt us. As long as you're with me, you're safe.
I see.
And I said, well, to myself, I hope the Japanese are aware of this. And I never questioned him again. And I had very good connections with MacArthur. And people always tell me, how come you're so faithful to MacArthur when he abandoned you? I said, he never abandoned us.
He never did.
He was ordered off of Corregidor twice before he got a call from President Roosevelt himself. And President Roosevelt told him he wanted him to go to Australia so he could lead our forces in the offensive.
Sure.
When he hung up the phone, he said, gentlemen, I'll be leaving. That was my commander. And he wants me to go to Australia, so I'll be leaving soon. Well, it wasn't long before he was headed for Australia. There were 3 PT boats. The PT boat that had MacArthur and all of his staff, and the other PT boat had technical man, communications, who were going to set up the communications. And the third one had President Quezon's family, the president of the Philippines.
I see.
And the 3 left. People have told me that there was a 4th PT boat.
Okay.
I never saw the 4th one. It was probably out diverting the Japanese from the actual Japanese. But people are not aware that it was a dangerous trip for MacArthur to go from Corregidor to the southern islands of the Philippines. But in order to do it, he only traveled at nighttime, because the daytime he would hide in the coves where he wouldn't be spotted by the Japanese.
Tell us something about it, please.
Well,
how was life in the POW camp?
Was that
enjoyable?
No, let me tell you. When MacArthur left, he left General Wainwright in charge.
I see.
And I was on General Wainwright's staff. The Japanese had been trying to get Corregidor for months, and they couldn't take over. They finally got orders from Tokyo that they were to make a full offensive and captured it.
Sure.
And when the war broke out, we were ordered by Washington that we should hold out at least for 3 months so that we could start our bases of operation in Australia. So we not only held out 3 months, we held out 5 months. Bataan held out 4 and we held out 5, which gave them more time for them to set the whole operation in Australia. And although this was a surrender. They considered it a big victory because we allowed them to set the bases in Australia.
My audience, today we had one of the very, very rare chance to talk to somebody who's involved in the World War II actual war. He was there, and that's Sgt Sanchez. With all my salute, I asked several questions. One of the questions was about the POW part. Obviously, our Sgt Sanchez, didn't feel happy about that experience. We'll skip that part. Let's take a very short moment.